Welcome to the C102 track, Increasing Viewership and Video Revenue with Syndication and Social. My name is Anil Jain. I'm the Executive Vice President and General Manager for Brightcove's media business. What that means is I lead our global business across broadcasters, publishers, OTT services, internet media companies, etc. Very happy to see you guys all here. Hopefully we're going to get a dynamic conversation going so you guys all look alive. Have a great panel we've assembled here. I'm going to let them all introduce themselves, but just a couple comments. You know, we are talking about social video and the rising importance and how it's affecting every type of media company out there. You know, on one hand, we have billions of users, so we have audience, right? That is represented by the leading platforms, social platforms out there. And on the other hand, we have, you know, for lack of a better term, the threat of the duopoly of Facebook and Google in terms of, you know, controlling ad dollars, controlling data, you know, having the power to influence consumer choice, right? And so there is a tightrope, there is a balancing act going on for every media company. And we have, in our panelists here, we have representatives from a traditional local broadcaster, traditional publishing organization that has, you know, evolved its business to be heavily digital. We have an organization that has, you know, was originally known for UGC content and has evolved, and I'll let Claudia talk about that. You know, in terms of video sharing, video syndication, and then we have a kind of newer entity all about social channels and creating social channels. So, you know, there are multiple perspectives here from which we're going to look at social video. With that, Rob, can you introduce yourself, your company, and what you do there, and then we'll just go down the line.
Yeah, I'm Rob Dillon. I'm the Digital Operations Manager for Tribune Media. We have 42 local television stations, a cable channel, and a radio station.
I'm Claudia Page. I'm the Vice President of Partner Products at Dailymotion, which is an online video platform, as you know.
Jonathan Moffie. I'm Director of Video Product and Distribution at Time Inc.
And Michael Philippe, co-founder and CEO of Keli Network. We create social video channels.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. Thank you, guys. Let's start off. We're going to cover a few different topics that I think are relevant to everyone here, and then I want to make sure we leave time for questions. If you don't have any questions, we have plenty to talk about, but hopefully we'll get some from you guys. So when we look at you know, kind of the overarching statement I made about the fact that our audiences are inevitably there on these platforms, right? You're, as a media company or as customers of our services, and then you have the threat, right? So everyone's kind of looking sideways at Facebook and Google in particular. There are other platforms out there as well. To what extent do you guys think about social distribution and syndication as mandatory, and to what extent are you being very, very careful about what you actually do on social? And Jonathan, I'm going to start with you as a representative from Time and Publishing.
Well, I mean, we don't have that luxury. We are literally in all places across all distributed platforms. We work very closely with Facebook on their latest and greatest initiatives, whether it's Facebook Live, the mid-roll that's coming, and the testing that's going on there. We have 2 additional Snapchat Discover platforms. We're on Instagram video, Twitter video. We're launching a partnership with Twitter with our Essence Now live streaming brand. We are launching 5 additional social first video brands that all have sponsorships announced at our new fronts, and yeah, we have to play in every space, and to do that, our programming teams, we used to kind of have a siloed Snapchat team or Facebook team. Now it's all one strategy embedded in each brand. People, Time, Sports Illustrated, their programming teams also have the onus to distribute on O&O and all of the distributed platforms.
Okay, Rob, from a Tribune perspective.
From a traditional broadcaster, we have a love-hate with Facebook. And, you know, I know you and I are probably old enough to remember hating the AOL walled garden.
Thank you for that, by the way.
And now we have turned around and we're back to a walled garden with Facebook.
Yeah.
But to survive, we have to play in that arena. The best example I can give you of the love-hate we have with Facebook is the day you brought up Facebook Live, the day it was announced that you could professionally send to Facebook Live to an endpoint. My boss sent me that, and I was messing around with it, and you know, I'm not a huge fan of Facebook, but we play nice, and so I was mad, and I'm sitting there at 10 o'clock at night. My boss wants to know how this works, and there weren't any real instructions, but I figured it out. Started streaming WGN in Chicago's newscast, their 10 o'clock newscast. We were the first newscast ever on Facebook Live. My boss looked at it, said, "Great job, don't ever do that again." So and that's why we have to balance things. We work very closely with Facebook as well on instant articles and the live stuff, and you know, my boss just gave a speech with Facebook at NAB, so it's not that we dislike them, but like with any traditional media, we have to keep a weary eye.
Yeah, Claudia, from Dailymotion's perspective, right, as especially kind of tracking the history now being owned by Vivendi, kind of what's the perspective on Facebook, Google, Snapchat, Instagram versus you know, other or even being a distribution endpoint?
Right. I think for those of you who know, Dailymotion not only manages its O&O property as dailymotion.com, where we have a very large global audience, but we also have partnerships with publishers where we have an extended audience or a distributed audience through our network of publishers, because we provide them with publisher tools to effectively distribute their content and upload to Dailymotion as well. But the way we think about the threat of all of these other emerging, not only just the emerging platforms, but you know, the big two, we think about the B2B business first, and having to enable our partners to effectively distribute to those platforms, giving them the right CMS tools that are mobile first, that are focused on allowing you to preview what your content will look like, allowing you to create the right level of content or engaging content for each of those platforms. And again, that takes eyeballs away from our own platform too. So there's a little bit of a trade-off that we have to focus on in terms of building the right strategy for our own O&O, as well as enabling our partners to distribute their content effectively across the distributed networks, as well as all of their distribution deals.
Got it. Before I go to you, Michael, and talk about kind of the perspective that's fairly different, I just want to spend some time still in this conversation and talk about O&O versus social, right? So Jonathan, you said you have, it sounds like your mandate is to be everywhere, right? But you also talked about social first, right? So can you speak a little bit more about kind of what's maybe implicit in the statement of social first, but in those content brands versus how you think about all of your O&O properties, and the distinction specifically around an O&O property where you're looking to actually actively build that audience, grow that viewership, monetize that O&O video, and then how that works with social.
Yeah, I mean, so Time Inc. is a content company first and foremost, and we are launching, kind of playing off of our existing brands, social only, video brands, new brands, and because of the kind of, I guess, the gravitas of the brands, we're able to kind of out of the gate launch with native and branded advertising sponsorships. We're offering the same proposition on those platforms where it's kind of a safe environment for your advertising with premium content creation, and that's not as easy to kind of solve for as it is on O&O, where that is where we really truly go to an advertiser and we can tell them with certainty and as much as possible that we can actually provide a safe environment with safe brands, and there's a lot of kind of product and engineering tools that we use to ensure that, and that's the kind of differentiator, is being able to control that environment, whether that's people.com's #1 on ComScore with their giant reach and their homepage audience, Time, Sports Illustrated, but it's also last September we launched People EW OTT network that is doing really well. The new fronts, I think we announced 1.6 million installs, average 30 minutes watch time on Roku, Apple TV, these connected devices. So we're expanding out there. We're going to launch a Sports Illustrated OTT network in the fall. So we really want, while we play on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and those places are definitely a future for video for us as well, we want to continue to grow out our O&O.
Got it. Got it. Claudia.
I was going to say, don't you think that presents a little bit of a challenge when it comes to sort of the walled garden approach that platforms take? I mean, you're going to have to distribute all of your content, and then you have difficulty driving that content, that audience back to your O&O, right? Without the link out effect of, like, let's say Twitter or Facebook, where.
So I would say the big difference currently, and again, this is kind of changing even now because Facebook's changing. At first it was short form video and then Facebook Live, and now they are encouraging publishers like Time Inc. to go into the mid-roll space, and it looks like Facebook's looking to play in the TV space. And at first it was easy. We're like, okay, we'll keep with our short form videos, text on screen on Facebook, but our premium long form content that we're starting to build up for OTT will live on OTT. And that's how we'll differentiate. But now that's melting together, and the mandate is simply to do both because we have to. It's not clean, but it's definitely the way we're going.
So Rob, real quick, and then I'm going to come to Michael. Given the decidedly more careful stance in your organization, how do you guys think about the work you are doing with social? Is it fundamentally designed to drive viewership back to your O&Os, or is it supplementary? What's the kind of perspective?
It gets interesting, and we still struggle, even how many years into even just putting a video on Facebook. How much do we give away on Facebook because we want people to come to our digital properties? We want people to watch us over the air. Our majority of our income is still from broadcast.
Right.
So we're trying to balance what we give away on Facebook and how does that pay us back in our properties where we do make money. You brought up Facebook Live pushing us towards mid-roll now. Well, our local hits are a minute and a half long. Nobody's going, well, Facebook won't even let you put mid-roll in a minute and a half. As a traditional broadcaster, we don't do a lot of long form that can be repurposed. So we make sure our stations understand that each platform has to have a different story told. And maybe, for example, a sweeps piece we have, you're all familiar with broadcast sweeps, November, May, July, where we set our ad rates, and that's when we do the sensational stories. We'll pay a reporter for a month's worth of work for a minute and a half on TV. So, and we talk about this for our OTT channels as well. Why don't we repackage that and then monetize it on the different platforms? So that's something we're working on as well.
Got it. All right, Michael. I've skipped past you too long.
It's okay.
You have a decidedly different business. Do you want to maybe first kind of give everyone an overview of what the Keli Network is, and then talk about how you would kind of compare what you're doing or contrast it to what everybody else on the panel has been talking about?
Yeah, sure. I think what's really different for us is that we're just 1 year old.
Yeah.
So Keli Network has really been built on the vision that social platforms, they own the distribution. It's not just an add-on, it's the outlet, and this is where the content lives and where the content also ends. So we really believe that there is a big opportunity to start new brands, new content brands that are fully distributed on social platforms and 100% videos. And it is today the fastest and the cheapest way to build new brands. And in just a year, we grew from 0 to 700 million monthly video views. So there is really an opportunity to start those brands. We have different brands on different verticals. We have one gaming brand, one soccer brand, one inventions brand, and we just started also a beauty brand. And yeah, we think that, so if you think about it, 62% of Americans get their news on social. And it's not just a fad. It's like really a trend that is going on, that is going to accelerate in the next few years.
So raises, I'm sure, a lot of questions. And before I hand it over to you guys, who I think have questions, I completely understand the opportunity to, from the ground up, develop a new brand with an emphasis completely on social distribution. But one of the concerns I would imagine that most media organizations have, and I want to get your point of view on this, is that, to what extent are you abdicating control to the social distribution points in terms of, we know that one of the things that's so amazing about internet video and OTT right today is that the power has shifted dramatically to the consumer in terms of being able to discover and move from content to content independent of the network, independent of where it's distributed, because I as a consumer have the choice and I'm not locked in, right, to some extent. And that freedom is something that both media organizations and, I think at one point consumers, especially with all the fake news kind of drama that's gone on, get worried that they're losing some of that flexibility. If your content channels, live and die on social distribution, and we know what the distribution curve looks like in terms of the social platforms, to what extent do Facebook?
Trump defends sharing highly classified email.
That's fake news.
You can't even turn off a Trump disruption.
I know. To what extent are you worried about, the performance of those networks being completely, dictated by Facebook and Google?
Sure. So I think that first of all, we're lucky that Facebook is being probably the most powerful platform right now, but there are also other platforms where you can distribute your content. So that's a good step. That's a good first step. You're not only dependent on Facebook and distribute your content on YouTube. Snapchat is growing really fast. Twitter also is a good platform to distribute your content. So there are different platforms. So you don't have to be only on one platform. But of course, Facebook, we will all prefer that it would not be as powerful as today. But you have to deal with it because this is where the users are, and you have to follow what users do. So that's why we are all in on the platforms. And if you look at how people use Facebook today, and that's a problem there, they share less and less personal content. And there's still 1 billion people going to Facebook every day. So those people, they need content. And Facebook, maybe there's a discussion around that, but it's not a media company yet. So they need also content providers, and we saw Facebook for the first time paying publishers to produce content on their platform. So I think there is a shift here. There's the beginning of a shift. And so you need to fill those people with content, and as long as you're producing and creating content that people love, I see content distribution more as an opportunity than as a threat. And if you look at, I always like to compare what happened with SEO 10 years ago. A lot of publishers were also, they were kind of scared to rely only on Google. But 10 years later, people and companies that have created relevant content for Google are still number 1 and number 2 on their categories, and 50 to 60% of their traffic still come from SEO. So
yeah, that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy for Google, though, right? I mean, there's also the flip side where they make a change, and the world has to respond, right? So then I saw some questions brewing. At least Claudia.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
chopping at the bit.
Yeah.
I would agree with you that there is a shift, but I would say that the shift isn't just beginning; it's happened, right? Like the fact is, beginning with privacy concerns in 2010 with Facebook. I mean, the algorithm has shaped over time to move away from reverse cron. The same thing happened on Twitter. The same thing happened with Snapchat. The same thing happened with everyone with Instagram. It is focused on, and look at what's happened with Dailymotion and Two, and what we're doing to reposition ourselves in the marketplace as a place for premium content. It is not necessarily about focusing on creating new brands to be social first, but rather capitalizing on the trusted brand that you have as media companies and positioning your writers and the content that they produce, or or your editorial team and the content that they produce, to really be focused on capitalizing on this new platform approach where the focus is no longer on UGC content, but rather news, media consumption, what we drive consumption habits to be as platforms like Facebook or Dailymotion, for example. Like the story's there, the signals have been there for a long time. All of the publishers have adjusted their strategies to basically become mobile first, social first, because Facebook is no longer a place for just personal updates.
Yeah. Interesting. So let me ask you guys all this, and Michael, I'm going to start with you because you're developing, and you develop this content yourself, or do you hire or acquire content?
No, we have a content producing team.
You do have a content creation team. So let's talk about KPIs and metrics, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm very interested in, to the extent you can share specifics, that'd be great, all of you, but to the extent you can't, at least speak to what are the metrics that matter to you in terms of social distribution and syndication? What do you actually focus on? And is there any one thing that kind of trumps all the rest?
Yeah, I think that really the only metric that matters is engagement. So engagement for Facebook means someone has clicked, shared, commented, or liked one of your content. And that's also why we started this vertical strategy instead of building one general brand. It's because you want to be on top of the social feed. And what drives virality is engagement and viral content. So I think the metrics that you want to look first is really engagements. For us, we deliver 700 monthly video views, and we have 50 million engaged users, unique. So, and this is really the metric that is the most important for us.
Okay, interesting. Jonathan?
Sure. I mean, engagement definitely number one is kind of audience dev is looking at on the social platforms. Then you're also getting a ton of scale on those platforms. Our value add with our social first video distribution brands that we're launching is, yes, we're going to be able to kind of scale these very quickly, like we did with our Well Done, where we hit 200 million uniques in I think like less than a month, just kind of leveraging the other brands and their footprints. But also we can promote you across these other sites where we're top 10 in ComScore, and kind of able both for the user and for advertisers to be able to offer that. But when it comes to like watch time and everything, that's still, whether it's long form on kind of O&O web, or the best place for that right now is still your OTT platforms.
Claudia?
Video view duration, so making sure the video completions are, viewers are actually completing the video watching experience. I mean, time on site, continuous watching experience, so anything that drives viewers to stay within the player and watching more videos. So that's the videos per session, basically.
Okay.
Video views per session.
Video views per session.
Yeah.
For us, a lot of it is still engagement, as everybody has said, how much video is watched, but we also measure the quality of engagement. If we have 300 you sucks, to Facebook, that's going to look better than a quality conversation going on in the thread. So we have measurement tools through some companies that we've made strategic investments from. And remembering that traditional broadcasting, especially in some of the smaller local markets, is still very personality driven. So not only do we measure videos and engagement from our station pages, but we measure our personalities, engagements, and some of our internal KPIs are based on how well the personalities actually drive the social conversation in their market. So that's also very important. And if we get a good piece of viral video coming out of a local market and then a personality engages with it, then it looks even better.
Interesting. So what I find interesting in this, obviously the reasoning behind the metrics you're talking about, the KPIs you're talking about, makes sense. but no one mentioned monetization as the primary driver. So obviously monetization matters, right? You know, Jonathan, for you, as you've launched social first brands, those of course have to sustain themselves through social. But even the content that isn't social first, that is actually being shared on social, distributed on social, whether in the original form or in some modified form, you know, there are metrics in terms of how successful you are in terms of growing the business. So how do you guys think about monetization on social? Rob, let's start with you, because I think it's probably a little bit different in terms of what you guys are doing.
We, for better or for worse, we really haven't been concerned with monetization on social. We do have a print product I didn't mention in the beginning, based out of Canada, that I've been working with. They're a sports information service, and we've been doing stuff on there. Facebook doesn't like them. Facebook thinks they're a sports book and gambling, so we don't worry about Facebook, but we then concentrate more on YouTube and Twitter, and we're seeing great results with their products, with Periscope and YouTube Live, to the point that we're seeing a very monetizable product with them. But again, that's out of the realm of our traditional broadcasters. Right. This was actually an acquisition when we bought Gracenote a few years ago, stayed with us when Gracenote went to Nielsen.
I see.
And it's a very interesting product. It's not a product we're traditionally in, but they're more like, you got more of a publishing slant instead of local broadcasting. And we're seeing a lot of the same things work for them that the other folks on the panel are mentioning.
Yeah, makes sense. Claudia?
You know, we really focus on enabling our partners to, again, drive up viewership, to drive up an audience to the views, to the content that they provide. And that's because that's the lever. So when I mentioned that time on site and of course video completion is really one of the levers to drive monetization on our platform, it certainly, as a publisher, I would imagine if I were to reverse roles, it would be what was important to me.
Yeah, so you're very specifically then, you're saying increased viewing time per session, right, or duration per session, obviously ties directly to inventory created to monetize.
Yeah.
Okay. Jonathan?
Yeah, for video specifically, native and branded is huge. Again, I can't stress enough. We're launching more social video only platforms. They're all launching in concert with sponsorships, and we're happy with our strategic partners in those realms. But yeah, native and branded content, working closely with Facebook on Facebook Live and on the other initiatives. We have we've announced our third Snapchat Discover channel and attracting more eyeballs there. But yeah, it's kind of native and branded is the key component to distributed.
One question on the sponsorships associated with some of the social first brands, like, given that you're launching them and they have not yet launched, do you structure a sponsorship deal based on a forecasted, viewership, or are you actually, does the sponsor? And I'm asking this because I know there's a lot of people that are interested in kind of the sponsored content side of things, or are you, or the economics of those kind of relationships, performance based?
So, I mean, without getting into all the details, like the Pretty that's launching has a L'Oreal sponsorship component. We take a lot of our insights from Nielsen, from ComScore, all of the beauty and style information we already have from our brands like InStyle and People and EW, and we can kind of build a portfolio around that and like a forecast of what we're pitching to advertisers, and kind of show them that not only is there scale on Facebook, but also we're going to promote the Pretty if you partner with us on people.com, on InStyle, on our video distribution network, so we can offer a breadth of distribution that makes, we say it's social only, but obviously I think one of the key attractive values for us is that we can put it in all these other places.
So by putting it in these other places, you're actually doing the reverse of using social to drive referral traffic to O&Os. You're using your O&O brands to drive traffic to your social.
Trying to take a few jabs back.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And so essentially they're paying for exclusivity though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Michael, what about monetization on your channels?
Yeah, so two revenue streams, platform monetization. Of course, CPM or lows, but we have a very low cost structure, and for digital brands like us, it works. And it's interesting. And of course, the main revenue stream is native and branded content. So how can you help brands not only create content that works on social platform, but also guarantee the distribution and the number of views. So this is how we operate.
Okay, so your engagement numbers, of course, are critical then.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Got it. Looking at the time, we got 10 minutes left. I want to open it up to some questions. If you'll raise your hand and ask the question, I'll repeat it so that we can get it on the camera as well. Yes?
Facebook supposedly has a very strong targeting mechanism that allows you to focus how you want to promote your content. Use that at all?
Okay, so the question for the camera is that Facebook has supposedly a very powerful targeting mechanism, and are you actually, you're asking the panelists if they're actually using that and how they're using that. Anybody?
I mean, it doesn't fall within my group, but like paid Facebook ads, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are.
Yeah. I mean, I've certainly seen, we know all about the great publisher strategies coming out of BuzzFeed with dark posts and basically social strategies that focus on not only targeting but A/B testing your posts, right? Before you actually publish them, so to ensure that they are successful when they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because actually social distribution really requires new tools and new expertise, just like SEO also.
Yeah.
And part of our job also is to create those tools. So we have a trend identification tool, we have A/B testing tools, and we have also social amplification tool that uses Facebook advertising products, and that allow us to scale and to optimize the distribution of content that is overperforming on our channel.
Got it. Rob? You guys aren't
We
really...
use it, but that's about all I can say.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yes, sir. All right.
Along the same lines of targeting, do you use any personalization or recommendation system to personalize the experience of this application?
Okay, so the question is, along the lines of the ad targeting, let's talk about personalization. Are you using any of the personalization capabilities to kind of personalize the experiences? And I mean, to some extent, the social platform, especially Facebook, is doing that kind of itself, right?
Right.
But are you doing anything specifically in terms of, I guess, in, developing or packaging your content?
Well, that falls along the lines of discovery, and it doesn't matter what platform you're on, discovery is important. And once you get the correct combination of the human touch and machine learning, that's the holy grail, and whichever one of us figures that out, we're not going to tell you.
Claudia, with respect to the duration of viewing sessions, are you and I'm not familiar with you doing this now, so maybe everyone knows, but what are you doing in terms of content recommendations, or algorithmically presenting more content to the user so that maybe it's personalized based on their information?
Yeah, there's Dailymotion is taking an entirely different approach come June, which we've been promoting across various publications that we've done press with. But the focus is really, again, top-down recommendations algorithmically, plus an editorial oversight on 4 main verticals: so sports, music, entertainment, and news. This verticalized approach allows us to go even more niche and surface who the most trusted and respected brands or sources are on any given subject. And that's really how we're going to seed more viewing experience, a continuous watching experience, and surface high quality content that is not only a great place for publishers to promote content and become easily discoverable, but also a more brand safe environment for advertisers. because the alternative, of course, is being wedged in between a stream of personal updates and spam and potentially unsafe brand content. So,
right. So the brand safety, of course, increases as you go more premium.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So I just had a happy hour with these guys, but I don't see any representation, so I'm hesitant to promote them.
Okay.
But for owned and operated, we partner with Iris TV, close partner of Brightcove, to really help us kind of go to the next level with their algorithm for our owned and operated, continuous play, recommendations. It's a powerful tool. We leverage our existing brand, enriched taxonomy for people.com, Time, Sports Illustrated, and it helps us kind of enable and unlock additional recommended views, which both drives additional engagement, and we've seen an increase in just O&O views in general. So they have been helpful, even though they're not here supporting me. I don't know. Where's Rich?
Well, I'll let him know.
I'll text them after this. Yeah.
What about, Michael, with the social channels? I mean, you're dependent completely on the social distribution points. So do the social networks themselves just to handle the personalization for you?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yes, another question.
Can you guys speak a little bit to how you use your viewer data to grow your audience? I guess that's both engagement and revenue, because in Time's case, you can take viewer data you generate on your own OTT platforms and maybe use that to run promotions or something on Facebook or Twitter, but in the Keli case, you're really just beholden to whatever data Facebook or Twitter have on your viewers. So I'm curious,
Okay.
you guys just do that or just third parties?
All right, well, I'll kind of summarize the question. It's a good question. The question being asked is, how are you guys using viewer data, whether you're leveraging kind of the data you have from your owned and operated properties, or you're dependent on the data you get from the social networks, and are you using any third parties to support the viewer data? You want to start, Michael?
Yeah, so 2 tools for us. The first one is trend identification. So we created our own tool that for each category, we index tons of influencer on this specific category, and every time the content is going viral somewhere, we can detect it, and we use it to create a new content or just to inspire a content producer to create a new video. So that's how we can use data that is not ours, but somewhere out there. And second is we're trying to learn a lot from all the videos that we created. So we're currently working on a boat that will help our content producers. Every time they submit a video, the bot will tell them, according to previous video that have been posted, what is wrong in the video and what should they change. So this is how we see how data can help us be more efficient and create create better content. So we really are a data-centric company and really try to leverage all the data that we have to create more content. Another way for us to leverage data is by managing content promotion campaigns. So we manage 3,000 campaigns at the same time, and we learn a lot by managing all those campaigns, and we try to create rules. So for example, if the cost per view of this video is under, I don't know, like X dollars, we need to accelerate the distribution of this video. If it's over X dollars, then we need to stop it. This is how we try to learn from all the data that we have.
It's very interesting. John?
So yeah, if anyone has an API where we can integrate our DMP with Facebook, that would be great. But Facebook is
its own DMP.
Its own DMP. So yeah, I mean, DMP is separate. That's O&O. That's how we do all of the different granular targeting, audience targeting, segmenting, all that great stuff. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you're a little bit more beholden to what they offer for that. But we take a lot of, again, it's taking a lot of the insights of, we know our audience extremely well on their own and operated, and that dictates both the programming and distribution strategy on distributed platforms. So we know you guys, and now we know you're here on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so here's what we think you'll want to watch in a programming world and perspective.
Interesting.
Yeah. But if there's an API integration, please share. That'd be great.
Rob, Claudia, either one of you?
We have an investment in a company that does much of the same research and testing that Michael outlined. It almost sounded like he worked for them when he was saying it. So, but also, we're local broadcasters, so we have the luxury of a news director in every market whose job is to know that market and to know what works in that market. Now, if something starts to gain traction outside of that market, that's where the company we've invested in starts applying your tools towards it. But otherwise, a lot of it's still, as a traditional broadcaster, still a lot of gut feeling.
Yeah. Claudia?
I won't talk specifically about how we do this on Dailymotion, but what I would mention is kind of an interesting approach is you can think about how YouTube creators are not really focused on the current monetization tools, but in fact making money, through sponsorship deals. And what they're selling, the KPIs that they're currently selling to brands. So they're selling engagement, reach, audience reach across all of their various platforms that they're on and create content on. They're selling audience demographic data when they can. They certainly can't get into the nitty-gritty of the psychographic data, but there's this whole sort of underbelly world there where a lot of people are making a lot of money by creating branded content and selling it directly to the brands who are buying it and creating the programs to do it. So the metrics that they are using are basically the ones that are available to them on each platform.
That's interesting. I think that, at some point we should recommend to streaming media that maybe we have a session, I don't even think it's on here, but of, what is the future of content when it is all data driven and data created, right? So one of the things, and maybe this is the age comment, Rob, but it worries me a bit in terms of the authenticity
you can also
of content.
look at radio and what happened to radio when they became 100% automated and everything driven that way. Radio doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, part of this is fueled by the fact that last night I had the TV on at the hotel and there was a whole documentary about the future of artificial intelligence and what it means for our species. But on that happy note, thank you all. Please join me in giving a round of applause to our panelists. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.